Do you trust the multi-party parliament committee on Phala Phala, known as the Impeachment Committee? Do you trust it that it will do its job fairly and honestly, taking into consideration the political dynamics in this country and what history has taught us about our parliament, which has been dominated by the African National Congress? Good day, fellow South Africans. Welcome back to Izwi Labansundu, the voice for Africans, the voice of the people. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe, like the video, share to join, become a member, and turn on notifications, because on this channel we speak without fear, without favor, and without political sponsorship. Today we are asking a very important question for the future of our democracy. Do you trust the multi-party parliamentary impeachment committee that will investigate President Cyril Ramaphosa over the Phala Phala scandal? Because let us be honest, South Africa. Many people no longer trust Parliament, and they've got good reason, because on quite a few occasions, the Constitutional Court has found against Parliament that Parliament has failed to discharge its duties. Many people no longer trust political parties. This is reflected by a low number of voters who turn out on election dates. And many people believe powerful politicians are protected by the system. But before we answer that question, let us first understand what is happening. The Constitutional Court recently ruled that Parliament acted irrationally when it rejected the Section 89 Independent Panel report back in 2022. That judgment has now opened the door for a formal impeachment committee, for formal impeachment committee process against President Cyril Ramaphosa to proceed. This means Parliament must now establish a committee made up of different political parties to investigate whether the president committed serious misconduct in relation to the Phala Phala matter. And remember, this entire scandal started after allegations that a large amount of foreign currency hidden inside the sofa at Ramaphosa's Phala Phala farm was stolen in 2020. Questions were then raised about the source of the money, whether it was properly declared, and whether state resources were improperly used to investigate the theft. Now, here's where the debate becomes serious. Can members of Parliament honestly investigate their own president fairly? That is the question millions of South Africans are asking today, because we have seen this movie before. Back in December 2022, Parliament voted against proceeding with the impeachment process. The ANC used its majority in Parliament to block the process. 214 MPs voted against the impeachment route, while 148 voted in favor. And many South Africans looked at that moment and said, this is not accountability, this is party protection. Even some ANC members broke ranks, including Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and voted against Ramaphosa. That alone showed that there were divisions inside the ruling party. But now things are different. The ANC no longer has the same dominance it once had after the 2024 elections. South Africa is now governed through coalition politics and multi-party arrangements, That changes political calculations completely. However, does that automatically mean justice will happen? Not necessarily. You see, my concern is not only about the ANC. My concern is about Parliament itself. Parliament in South Africa has often failed to hold powerful politicians accountable. We saw it during the Nkandla scandal under former President Jacob Zuma. We saw endless protection of politicians accused of corruption. We saw political loyalty becoming more important than constitutional duty. And now South Africans are expected to trust the same institutions again? Really? That is why many citizens are skeptical. Some people believe this impeachment committee will simply become another political theater production. A lot of noise, a lot of press conferences, a lot of speeches, but no real consequences. Others believe opposition parties will use the process merely to weaken Ramaphosa politically ahead of future elections rather than genuinely defending constitutional accountability. And then there are Ramaphosa supporters who argue that this entire process is politically motivated from the beginning. They say if Ramaphosa was truly guilty, why has he not been criminally charged? That's a question we have to ask. Why is the NPA and others not charging Ramaphosa? So that is their argument. Ramaphosa himself has repeatedly denied wrongdoing and says the process against him is flawed. But critics responding by saying, this is not only about criminal charges. This is about ethical leadership, transparency, and whether the president respected the Constitution. And that is an important distinction. Because under Section 89 of the Constitution, impeachment is not only about criminal conviction. It is about whether the president violated the Constitution, committed serious misconduct, or is unable to perform the functions of office. That is why the findings of the earlier independent panel became such a massive issue. The panel found there was prima facie evidence suggesting Ramaphosa may have violated the Constitution and anti-corruption laws. Now, remember, fellow South Africans, prima facie does not mean guilty. It simply means there is enough evidence for further investigation. And that is exactly why many people argue Parliament should have allowed the impeachment process to continue back in 2022 instead of shutting it down politically. The Constitutional Court appears to agree that Parliament mishandled the matter. But now the real test begins. Will this new committee act independently, or will political interests dominate again? Because let us face reality. Political parties rarely act without political calculations. The ANC wants to protect its image and maintain stability. Opposition parties want to weaken the ANC and Ramaphosa. Coalition partners are balancing political survival. And somewhere in the middle of all this political warfare, ordinary South Africans are searching for truth and accountability. That is why trust becomes such a difficult issue. Personally, I believe South Africans should not blindly trust any political structure. Right? Not the ANC, not the DA, not the EFF, not Parliament itself. Citizens must watch the process critically. We must ask difficult questions. We must demand transparency. We must demand public accountability. Because democracy does not work through blind trust. It works through public pressure and constitutional oversight. And let me say something very important here. Whether you support Ramaphosa or not, this process matters for the future of South Africa. Because today it is Ramaphosa, tomorrow it could be another president. If Parliament fails again to hold the executive accountable, then South Africans will continue losing faith in the democratic institutions. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Tebos Kosana. Kamakuma Africa.